it wasn't quite tight enough.
We have a bad fuel line. It's the input side for the generator, so today we get to fix that. One of the things that we need to do before we head to the Bahamas is make sure that we're not leaking fuel or oil or anything into those gorgeous waters. I've noticed that there's a little tiny bit of diesel that's been dripping down into the bilge, and it's been filling up my oil soak rags. I finally found it, and it was a fuel line. So we're going to replace the fuel line before we head to the Bahamas so that we don't have any problems while we're there, and so the generator doesn't quit in the middle of the ocean somewhere. I already got some fuel line. I got that a few days ago. It's this fuel line right here. It's just leaking everywhere. The whole line has come apart. I think what we're going to do is take it off from this side first, because I don't want to get too much air in it. There's a handle down there. It's right here. So I'm going to turn that off.
Well, there's one end off.
I'm trying to snake this thing through some very tight areas.
Areas that the previous one was already hanging around in.
Yep. If you want to see why it was leaking, it's chafe right there.
It's pretty bad too.
It's chafed completely through.
It's a good thing to know why it broke and started leaking.
Well, kind of suspected it, but yes, it's good to know for sure. We have to put some chafe guard in there. It chafed right on this metal edge. So I'm going to wrap some stuff around it.
Since the hole is a metal edge that the hoses come through, I'm going to take some of this flashing, I'm going to roll it up, and I'm going to put it through the hole so that when the wires pass through it, the metal is not an edge, it's flat. Flashing cuts very easily. I have tin snips, but this is too thin for tin snips, and it's aluminum, so a steel scissors cuts it really easily. So all I'm going to do is wrap this around the wires as they pass through the area, and that will make a smooth edge for the wires to go through instead of a sharp edge.
Now there's a metal piece of flashing in there. It'll keep the hose from rubbing. This calls for a stubby screwdriver. And we're going to cut this hose. I'm going to loosen this and let fuel come in here.
To try to reduce the amount of air in the system?
Yes, exactly. There a leak? There was. There was a little bit of a leak. It wasn't quite tight enough.
One of the nice things about this boat is that all my fuel tanks are above the engines. This means I don't need lift pumps to lift my fuel to the engine. That's nice. So one of the things I could do, I don't know if you saw, I held the tube up just for a little bit and I opened the valve, the fuel valve, until fuel filled the tube. And then I very quickly put it on there. That way we didn't lose a lot of fuel and we didn't get a lot of air in the system. That meant that I didn't have to bleed the system. I was hoping that it would just start up and run, and it did. I was very glad of that. That was fortuitous. But it's possible because it's gravity fed. So now we can put this back together. We'd been leaking a little bit, not a lot, of diesel into the bilge a little bit. My diesel soaking, oil soaking rags kept filling up. I didn't like that. This fuel line is old, but the rubber is actually soft. I'm gonna save this fuel line, I think. Cut out the leaking area where it was dripping. Well, it makes me feel good that the rest of this fuel line is still soft, because replacing the other part of the fuel line that goes back behind the generator would be very, very difficult, and I really don't want to have to do that.
If you like the video you've just seen and you would like to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.